Trackhouse spent nearly 6 months refusing to give Raul Fernandez a 2-year contract. On Monday, the same team confirmed exactly that for a rider sitting 12th in the championship, on terms it had quietly agreed over the summer. Tech 3 announced Bastianini's exit that morning. Minutes later, 2027 and 2028 were his at Aprilia's only satellite garage. The paddock read it as a hierarchy. The fallen Ducati name brought in over the man who just won at Silverstone. That reading is wrong, and what sits underneath it is worse. So why did the shorter deal get pushed on the rider who is actually delivering? And what exactly is Trackhouse protecting itself from? Understand what this seat has become. Aprilia's factory pair for 2027 is Francesco Bagnaia and Marco Bezzecchi. Both signed, both locked. That leaves Trackhouse as the only other place on the grid where an Aprilia will exist. And it happens in the same season the sport tears up its own rulebook, with new 850cc engines, new tyres, new aerodynamic limits. Whoever sits in that garage is not filling a seat. They are setting the development direction of a bike that has only ever turned laps in testing. Trackhouse just decided who holds that pen for 2 full seasons, and the decision does not match the results sheet at all. Start with the numbers, because they are brutal. Bastianini goes into Aragon 12th in the World Championship on 76 points. The rider whose seat he is taking, Ai Ogura, sits 3rd on 203. That is a gap of 127 points between the man leaving and the man arriving. And Ogura built every one of them on the Aprilia Bastianini is inheriting. Teams do not usually announce that kind of downgrade with a press release and a smile. Bastianini's year has not been empty, but it is thin. 1 podium, the sprint at Cota, and only after Pedro Acosta was penalised. The Brno sprint and the Catalunya Rostrum both belong to last season. He has been the next best KTM rider behind Acosta for most of the season. But the honest version is that KTM held an option on him until the end of June and then let him walk. Ducati moved him aside before that. So this is a rider one factory pushed out and another chose not to keep, though he wanted out of Tech 3 himself. Raul Fernandez, meanwhile, sits 6th on 184 points, ahead of Acosta, ahead of Bagnaia, and he won the British Grand Prix outright. So the obvious question writes itself. Which of these two had to fight for his contract? The answer is the one nobody expected, and it kills the version that ran all summer long. Back in June, it was reported that Trackhouse would only offer Fernandez a single season. That is not how it ended. Fernandez signed for 2027 and 2028 as well. Identical term, announced on the 5th of August. The asymmetry everybody reached for does not exist on paper. It exists somewhere far more revealing. According to the reporting on those negotiations, the length of the contract is the exact thing that stalled them for close to 6 months. Fernandez wanted 2 seasons. Trackhouse wanted what was described as a more flexible solution. Put that in plain language. The team that has watched him beat 2 factory riders all year spent half a year trying not to commit to him beyond 2027. And oh yeah, there is one more part of this that nobody has lined up properly. Fernandez signed on the 5th of August. 4 days later, at Silverstone, he won the British Grand Prix. In that same race, Bastianini crashed out on lap 6, and Bastianini's 2 years were already agreed by early July, settled quietly over the summer, back when the rider who went on to win was still being told to take less. You cannot explain that with performance, which means it has to be explained with something else. Davide Brivio, the Trackhouse team principal, told us what that something else was months before this announcement existed. Asked how he would replace Ogura, he said, "I don't think it's the right time to invest in a rookie right now. We think having experienced riders will allow us to better exploit the bike's potential." Listen to what he is not saying there. He is not saying he wants the fastest rider available. He is not saying he wants the best one. He is describing a filter, and speed is not what the filter is measuring. Team owner Justin Marks framed the signing the same way. His racing pedigree, his MotoGP winning history, and his experience at the top of this game all contribute to the perfect scenario for a racing team. Every word of that points backwards. Pedigree, history, experience. Not one syllable about this season, because this season does not help the argument. Now go back to how Trackhouse lost this seat in the first place. That is where it stops being a story about two riders. Ogura was not poached out of nowhere. Trackhouse had already agreed an extension with him. Aprilia, through Massimo Rivola, was on board. It was effectively done. Then Yamaha moved during the United States Grand Prix, offered him a factory contract alongside Jorge Martin, and Trackhouse could do nothing about it. A team that had already agreed terms with the rider, now third in the World Championship, stood there and watched him leave anyway. Brivio's reaction to that is the most important thing anybody has said in this entire saga. When we signed him, we took into account the possibility that after 2 years, he might want a factory team. That's part of the deal. 2 years. That is the number Brivio himself identifies as the point where a good rider becomes somebody else's target. And it is the exact term Trackhouse spent half a year trying not to give Raul Fernandez. So this was never a ranking. People thought Trackhouse built a hierarchy with Bastianini placed above Fernandez. What Trackhouse actually built was a defence. The hesitation over Fernandez was never doubt about his speed. Look at what had just been done to them in the open market. And the shape of it is a team trying not to build another rider worth robbing. That is not a pecking order. That is a satellite team negotiating from fear. So what did Trackhouse actually buy on Monday? It is not what the announcement said. Not a benchmark for Raul Fernandez. Not a new number one. They bought the single thing a satellite team cannot manufacture, which is certainty. Bastianini is 12th. Ducati moved him aside, then KTM let its option on him lapse, all inside 3 seasons. In this market, that means no factory is coming for him in 2028. His 2 years are safe precisely because nobody else wants them. Raul Fernandez is the opposite problem. He is 6th, he is beating Acosta and Bagnaia, and he has just won a Grand Prix. Every month he keeps doing that. He looks more like Ai Ogura, which means more likely to be taken. Trackhouse gave him 2 years because he forced them to, not because they wanted to. And here is what that costs them. The rider they can trust to stay is the one they cannot lose. The rider they actually need is the one they tried hardest not to hold. Aprilia's first 850cc parts land in that garage next season, and somebody has to decide who gets them first, knowing one of those 2 riders can walk and the other one cannot. The question was never whether Bastianini outranks Raul Fernandez. It is whether a team this frightened of losing riders can afford to reward the one who keeps winning. Who do you think gets those first parts? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.